We can't all be Apple, but we can certainly try and implement their strategies. Welcome back to the Product Solutions YouTube channel. Really glad to have you here and hope you get a lot of value out of this video as well. Today we're going to be talking about something which is near and dear to my heart, and that is really looking at the product strategy of one of the biggest companies in the world, that being Apple. And today we're going to be focusing on 5 of their product strategies. So let's get started. Number 1, target audience segmentation. One of the tried and true principles in ensuring that every product that we build is targeted towards a specific audience. The reason it's important is because no matter which product you have, are building, or about thinking about going to market with, we have to understand who our customer base is and why the product that we are bringing to market has value to that specific customer base. What does it have to do with Apple? So Apple traditionally and historically have focused on what we used to call those elites, or the creators of the world. But recently, Apple have gone down a very different track. And really, if we break it down, there are 3 main audiences which Apple target. The first is an entry level. The second is a budget-friendly flagship. And the final one is that elite pro level. So, why would Apple focus on pro level, entry level, and mid-tier flagship products? So in order to understand this, we've really got to look at what is Apple's market share in any of those segments today. The first one to look at is the iPhone. So the iPhone is Apple's biggest revenue driver. And the way that we can see this is by looking at the total share of the mobile or cell phone market in the entire world. So Apple has around 29% to the rest of the Android market, which has around 71%. So there is a very big market for Apple to grow into. The second thing to keep in mind is when you think about Apple's global strategy, which we'll talk to in a bit of time, they're focusing a lot on their services. And the way to get into services is to make sure that you have an actual product to use those services on. So Apple, in the infinite knowledge, have realized we can't just focus on elite products and on pro level products. We've got to try and get even those who can only afford an entry level product into their hands to ensure that they can actually utilize those services. Entering in Apple's entry level product line. We've got an iPhone SE, we've got an iPad. We now have that mid-tier budget where there is heaps of competition in the mobile phone market, and Apple has one of their flagships, usually their generic iPhone line. And then you've got those pro levels, be it an iPhone 13 Pro, an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and those cater for those pro level customers. So what does this all mean? When you think about it from our perspective, we can't always cater for very different target audiences, but what we can do is ensure that we're catering for our specific target audiences. So if we're trying to cater for the masses, there's no point in pricing our products extremely high because that won't enable those masses to come and purchase our products. And so the first strategy that we've learned from Apple is to ensure that we're creating products, we're pricing products for our target audiences, but in addition, we are thinking about the next step. How can I upsell? How can I cross-sell? And all those elements need to come into play when we are targeting our audience. On to strategy number 2. A greater move by Apple to focus on in-house reliable products from a hardware and a software perspective. We've seen Apple over the course of the last 2.5 years introduce their SoCs, their system on a chip, into the MacBook Air, it's gone into a Mac Mini, it's gone into an iPad Pro and now an iPad Air, and of course it's gone into some of the best computers around with that M1 Max, M1 Ultra, and M1 Pro chipsets. So they're focusing on delivering both from a software perspective and now into a hardware perspective. And the obvious question is, why would Apple do that? They've done a fantastic job producing unbelievable software, and they've outsourced their hardware to focus on that deliverable of software. But as we all know, Apple keeps their ecosystem very tight, and it's very hard to get into a system which is so walled. And yet, we see that Apple have continuously done that. And so before we can get into the question of why have they gone into the hardware department, we've got to understand why have they been so focused on ensuring that their software is closed. When you own something and you have full control over it, you also get to control the experience. And as we know, Apple is one of those companies that want to ensure that when you pick up an Apple device, you know what you're doing, you know what you're getting, but equally, whenever you go to the next Apple device, you can seamlessly transition how to save something, how to open something, all the gestures involved. It's just simply works. So they've done that in the software space. And to move to the next step, they have to then integrate and take control over the hardware. If you focus on the computer and the mobile space, they're really delving now into introducing software and hardware interconnectivity. Because at the end of the day, if Apple as a company want to ensure that they're creating the best experiences for their customers, they have to both integrate with the hardware and the software to hopefully grow and produce new features. We've just seen the introduction of a new feature on the Mac OS, which is this universal control, and it seamlessly can move between different screens of Mac devices, even if they aren't connected to each other. So what can we do in our businesses? We can't always control the pipeline and logistics for our products or the services that we offer, but what we can do is understand that our products are the key to us succeeding. And so to ensure that we continue to exceed, we have to focus, monitor, and iterate on all our different product lines to ensure that we are giving our customers, who we really want to retain, the best experiences. Let's focus on Apple's third product strategy, and that is product purchases lead to service subscriptions, or in other words, product purchases leading to an upsell or a cross-sell. Traditionally speaking, Apple has relied on their iPhone to produce the greatest level of revenue with respect to their total business lines. In fact, in 2021, it catered for over 50% of their total revenue, or over $350 billion. And traditionally, they've relied on other smaller product lines, be it the Mac or an iPad, to bolster the remaining amount of their revenue. But in 2021, the most interesting thing we saw was the subscription model continue to climb. In fact, it actually catered for their second highest product line in terms of the revenue at a whopping 18%. That's a huge jump. And when you think about it, only 4 years ago, we had two models of an iPhone. Just your average run-of-the-mill iPhone and a Pro or a Max model. Nowadays, we have four. Similarly, in the service space, only about 3 or 4 years ago, we had one really well-known Apple subscription, being iCloud. Nowadays, we have iCloud, we have Apple Arcade, we have Apple TV Plus, we have Apple Music, and we can bundle all those together for one beautiful price in the Apple One bundle. In fact, the iPhone continues to grow year on year, but iPad models and even Macs to a certain extent have either continued to stabilize or decline slightly. And so Apple have realized they've got to move into the subscription space, or they've got to find another form of revenue, that being for them, their subscription space. And as Apple has seen in 2021, that growth has led to a dramatic increase to their revenue, and we can only see it growing year on year. So how do we implement something like this in our businesses? We can't all focus on a new form of subscription like Apple does, but what we can introduce is either something from a loyalty perspective or something to continue to entice customers to come back and in turn give us that reoccurring revenue. We can't all be Apple, but we can certainly try and implement their strategies. Strategy number 4, the 80-20 rule. Yes, this is an oldie, but it's certainly a goodie and still remains true to this day. As we just mentioned, the iPhone and the Apple services subscription model caters for over 65% of their total revenue per year. I mean, we're talking in the close to $400 billion. So what does that actually mean for Apple? Apple has realized that those two elements drive the biggest amount of growth for their business. And so as a result, they're not only trying to grow it, they are doubling down on it. We've just talked about the introduction of new iPhone models, and we see that year on year. I often get asked, why in the world would I upgrade every single year to an iPhone? And the truth is, you probably shouldn't. But even though that you shouldn't, there is a model for every individual customer. And the reality is that Apple are trying to ensure that when a customer is in the buying cycle of a new cell phone, top of mind is to ensure that they're going to buy an Apple model. And similarly, with regards to their subscription models, if you buy a new Apple product, you're always presented automatically with free Apple Arcade or free Apple Music. There's tons of those offers going around. And what Apple are trying to do is to introduce you further into their subscription model, but also further into their ecosystem, so that if you're thinking about moving potentially, you always have that little bit of dissonance in your head to go, if I move to, for example, Spotify for my music from Apple Music, can all my playlists come over with me? Those little sticky elements ensure that Apple continue to have you as a customer. So if you think about what we've just discussed, it's really that 80-20 rule. 80% of the revenue coming from 20% or the minority of the product lines. And if you as a business owner can do the same, it's really going to help you grow not only your business, it can also help you grow sales, revenue, or any of your other objectives that you're doing. Strategy number 5, and the final one for today, that is iteration through surprise and delight. We often go into a store or go back to our favorite restaurant, but we often tend to go back to those things which we know and love. But I don't know about you, but for me, as soon as I see something fresh on a menu, it jumps out at me. And if you think about it, Apple has been surprising and delighting their consumers for over 35 years. I often hark back to Steve Jobs on the stage, whether it's WWDC or any other keynote, and he says those iconic words,
"But there is one more thing."
As soon as you hear those, you know Apple is going to deliver something big. I mean, those one more thing moments have brought us the PowerBook G4, have brought us the iPod Shuffle, have brought us recently the M1 Mac, and many, many others. And so Apple are known to continually surprise and delight us. But why? What makes it so special? Why do we keep wanting that? Even in today's world where Apple events are taped, as soon as we're getting close to the end, I get a little butterflies in my tummy because I'm thinking, will Apple do that one more thing? Because for us as consumers, we always want to have that new, beautiful, shiny thing. And from an Apple's perspective, it's got to be a bit grandiose. It's got to be something big, something to draw our attention, something that when we're in a buying cycle, we're buying a new tablet, we're thinking about that iPad mini. It's those things that ensure that Apple remain front of mind when you're in that buying cycle. So what does that mean for us? Well, we can't all create these grandiose products, but what we can do is continue to surprise and delight our customers at every touch point. Potentially it's when they come and order their favorite burger from your menu, you tell them, hey, guess what? We're introducing a brand new burger, a 2.0 version of this burger. Do you want to be a customer who tries it for us for free and tell us what you think? All those little elements to surprise and delight your customers will ensure that they continue to come back and feel welcomed at your store. So what have we learned today? We've learned 5 clear strategies. We've learned from Apple that focusing on our strategic elements can only lead to improved businesses for us all. Whether that's focusing on audience segmentation, product perfection, upsell, cross-sell, while reducing our costs, or focusing on those products that provide 80% of our revenue, or just trying to simply grow our businesses through surprising and delighting our customers. Either way, we can all introduce 1, 2, or more of these to help grow our businesses. If you've liked the content today, be that a really good person, give us a like and subscribe, ring the bell, share it with everyone, your friends, your family, and help spread the word. And as always, till next time, do that good extra deed to bring a little bit of light to the world. I'll catch you in the next one.